Halloween hasn't arrived yet, and already investors are spooked by what the upcoming holiday season will bring. The National Retail Federation predicts holiday sales will increase by 3.9% from last year to just over $600 billion. That would be up slightly from last year, but short of the 5% gains seen in 2010 and 2011. Results could be worse if congressional wrangling over the federal budget and debt ceiling frightens away an already cautious consumer. Walmart and Macy's already warned of rough sales throughout the fall before the Washington standoff. Joining me to talk the latest trends and the outlook for holiday are Edward Painvin, Chief Investment Officer for Chase Investment Counsel, and Jaime Katz, Retail Equity Strategist for Morningstar. Welcome to you both.
Thanks for having me.
Hi, Jennifer. Good to be back.
Good to see you again. Ladies first, Jaime, given the weaker back-to-school shopping season and quite frankly tepid retail sales numbers for August and September, does that bode poorly for holiday?
It does, and I think most retailers have at this point taken their forecast down for the remainder of the year, or the guidance down. So I'm not sure that investors at this point are really expecting much out of them. Most recently, Gap Unlimited reported same-store sales, which were disappointing for the September month. And, you know, it certainly seems like everybody's really grabbing for the few discretionary dollars that are left out there.
Edward, what are your expectations? Are weaker holiday sales on deck this year?
Yeah, you know what, Jennifer, I think they're fairly muted. If you were going to take actually another stock outside of the consumer space, this is Union Pacific, which is kind of a tier one railroad. They talked about weakness in intermodal, which is kind of a clear indication that the whole commerce area, the shipping of goods from the west ports over to some of the retail outlets, is also somewhat muted and challenged. So I would agree with Jaime that we're in for a challenging environment over the next 2 months.
Yeah, Jaime, and I also have to wonder, now that there's been so much congressional wrangling in Washington that's hurting consumer confidence, is that going to hurt holiday sales even more so, or perhaps at least push them later into the season?
Well, I don't know if they can be much later. I mean, this year is particularly funny because of calendar shifts. The Hanukkah holiday comes right around Thanksgiving, so you lose any sales that you would earn after Thanksgiving from that. And there's about a week less in calendar days between Thanksgiving and Christmas, sort of chopping into that total sales number. So the political wrangling that's going on, I think will largely be water under the bridge once everything is resolved and we move on. And I would suspect that this will be resolved sooner rather than later.
Edward, I gotta wonder, are consumers spent from buying homes and cars earlier this year? Are they going to want to open up their wallets for more discretionary purchases like jewelry or apparel or shoes?
Yeah, you're seeing a real dichotomy in the retail space. I mean, on the one hand, you've got these big box mass merchants like Walmart and Target really struggling. And then on the flip side, you've got some of these off-price retailers like Ross stores and TJX and Dollar Tree, for that matter, they're doing exceptionally well. And so I think a lot of these consumers are going to be even more focused on how far they can push their dollar, where there's value in the food chain, they're going to go out and seek it. And that's how I think the whole environment's going to shape out over the next 2 months or so.
Jaime, what are the big trends this year, or perhaps is that the key ingredient that's missing?
The trends as far as fashion?
Yeah, in terms of fashion. Remember last year we saw the colorful skinny jeans were all the rage, and that brought a lot of folks into stores. Do you see any trends like that this year?
I think it's been pretty widely discussed that the trends, at least on the fashion side, are pretty evasive this year. We haven't seen any, really big theme come out like color. I've started to see a little bit more in the way of pastels coming out, but nothing that's really led the way. And I think when you're selling a commodified product, it becomes a lot more difficult to convince people to buy or purchase your item if you don't have something that's standing out from what everybody else is offering. And that's really weighing on what is, getting people into the store and driving traffic, even through sort of an e-commerce channel, which, has started to become much more important to a lot of these companies.
Edward, do you think we're going to see more promotions to lure folks into stores? And quite frankly, what's that going to mean for retailers' bottom lines?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very, very promotionally driven. I mean, whether it's rollbacks with Walmart or even Target rolling out P-Fresh and Red Card. Since the beginning of time, a lot of these retailers have been pushing these traffic kind of driving initiatives to get customers in the store, I think it's going to be critical for these management teams to keep inventories lean so that they don't get in a situation where they got to mark it down and have this whole clearance issue, which drives gross margins lower. But yeah, it will be, for the most part, very promotional. It always is. And hopefully, we'll get some elastic demand from the consumer in terms of reacting to it. But by and large, it's going to have to be very, very, very kind of careful and inventory management from these management teams.
Jaime, what about the online piece? You sort of alluded to that earlier in the interview. Look at Amazon. They're hiring 70,000 seasonal workers. That's a 40% increase from last year. And that's based on the expectation that they're going to see stronger demand. Could online actually be a silver lining this year?
It can, and it can sort of across the board, although what we're really more concerned about is that consumers now are much more well-versed in finding the best price for the product they're looking for. And so everybody has the ability on their smartphone to check prices and then, basically execute the sale wherever that best price is. And what that means is lower margins for everyone. And I think what's more threatening in retail is that it's very easy now that there are these global businesses, Target, H&M, that really have sort of rock bottom price products out there. They are accessible to everybody online. There is no reason for anybody to walk into a Macy's and pay up for whatever product they're looking for at this point. And so that sort of weighs on a lot of the competition in that space.
So then which retailers are going to be the winner this year? Are you looking more towards the low end, or should we be looking towards the high end, to your point on your comments on Target and some of those other retailers, Jaime?
Well, I think there are companies that offer somewhat differentiated products. On our list, names like Limited Brands, where they're really sort of the market leader in their segment. Victoria's Secret and Bath & Body Works have sort of the lion's share in their respective categories. And then, obviously, the toy retailers have a fair amount of resiliency through this season because nobody wants their kids to come home to an empty Christmas tree. So at the end of the day, they continue to reinvent themselves and offer more digital properties and different ways for kids to play. And so we think that that they generally tend to fare well through the holiday season.
Edward, which retailers do you think will be the winners this holiday season?
I think it's going to be those that have sort of executed and delivered so far this year. And some of the names that come to mind would be some of the off-price retailers that are gaining share against some of these mid-tier department stores. Their merchandise is very attractive. The assortment is great. And some of the categories they're going after, whether it's juniors or accessories, are doing very, very well for them. Like I said, they're keeping inventories very lean, and the comps are kind of mid-single digits. And I think those are going to be the types of names that do well during the holiday season.
Well, it'll certainly be interesting to see how things shake out and how that bodes for the economy in the fourth quarter. Thanks so much to both of you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.